wonderful welcome and a heartfelt welcome to Real Talk. My name is Gaby Burt. I'm International Director for The Journey and have been with The Journey and Brandon Bays for over 27 years now. This little program is called Real Talk and happens once or twice a month, and we bring specific subjects and themes into the room where I find people who can speak from their own personal experience, who have succeeded in overcoming something severe or have succeeded in applying something in their life. And this month is we're talking about physical abuse, and one of the areas that Brandon has real profound experience in is physical abuse in childhood. And I wanted to get her first-hand report of what that means or what that can mean by way of how that represents in adulthood, how it can represent in a physical ailment or physical illness or emotional ailments. And so she has overcome the issues, and it is part of her personal story. And so I would love to give the room for most of this conversation to Brandon and share her experience. And there is a little issue here where when we did the original recording, we had some technical hiccups, and we didn't want to miss or lose the profound message that came through Brandon. And so you will see the first 1.5 minutes where you hear her voice and the still photo, but after that, it actually gets into animation and you can see her speak and me interact as well. It's just for 1.5 minutes where you will see a still. And she speaks from her own personal experience of what it meant to her, what it was like for her to have undergone severe physical abuse and trauma in childhood. And so over to you. Thank you so much, Brandon, for joining us here today. And I'm delighted to have this conversation with you. And so thank you once again from everyone here. And let's hear it.
We lose all confidence in ourselves. We have complete lack of self-esteem. We feel like we're incapable of doing anything. And yet we soldier on through. We push on through. And yet all the time, this pain from our past is reverberating in the background. And it's influencing our relationships, it's influencing our sexuality, it's influencing our ability to be intimate with other people in a non-personal way. I mean, just with deep friends, because there's a part of us that is so deeply damaged and flawed that we kind of hide that from other people. And then we push on through, we override. And very often as adults, and thank God this wasn't the case with me, but people who have been violently abused in their childhood come to expect that that's the normality, that that's normal life, that normal life is like that. And they get into relationships where that same pattern and that theme emerges. And again, it's just a concretization. It's a solidification of the notion that I am worthless, I'm nothing, I'm less than dirt. And a feelingness of desperation, of trying to overcome this interior version of yourself that you've been telling yourself as a result of the abuse. And also it's a trauma that all of us who have experienced it is almost like a scar, and it leaves its imprint on ourselves. And our bodies come to expect it. There's a way in which we brace against life. We defend against life as if we're expecting abuse to come our way, from criticism from teachers, from verbal abuse from friends, to physical abuse from partners or family members, to sexual abuse that is also happens when there's been a lot of abuse. And so it became almost, we set up our life to mirror what we came to recognize as being normal. And inside, it feels like there's a little death every day. And then we harden our external shell. We protect our hearts and convince ourselves that no one is going to hurt us like that again. And there's certainly a way in which, in my case, it was quite brutal abuse, that I came to the conclusion, okay, they can hurt my body, but they will never get to my heart. And so as a result of closing my heart, it made it very difficult to open up and be vulnerable in relationship, because I just couldn't get beyond the defense of this heart that feels so fragile and vulnerable. So it doesn't matter how extreme the abuse was. For some of us, I always thought that one of the things that would happen is when I would get punished, let's say, for some perceived thing that I'd done wrong, I would be stripped naked in front of my older brothers and belted. And with every belt stroke, I was made to repeat certain things. And so connected to that abuse is deep shame and an inability to hide that shame from myself. And so with abuse can often come a feeling of shame, not to mention the devastation and the low self-worth. And all of it can become like this tight bundle that we have inside. Then when we get into what should be a very healthy relationship, it's like we can't get past this yarn ball of all of the feelings that are conditioned into the abuse. And truthfully, is why I'm so grateful for the journey, because it was through the journey that I was actually able to go on a journey inside my body and uncover the cell memories, the buried emotional issues, and to really go through a profound and deep process of release and letting go of voicing of the pain, of all the unspoken words, the things we couldn't say and didn't say, and to really release it all and ultimately to come to an understanding of what took place in a very real way.
Yeah. What one of the areas that I find so deeply touching, especially with your story, Brandon, is that I know that in your late 30s you were diagnosed with a tumor the size of a basketball, and we did say in the description that sometimes violence in childhood and physical abuse in childhood can lead to physical and emotional issues as we grow up. And you were obviously aware of the childhood trauma that you underwent. And then there was a big switch and a big difference when the understanding and be aware of it and thinking that you have dealt with it all. What made the big difference of really coming to not just an understanding of what took place, but to actually make a real change at that point?
Well, for me, I'd been in the whole field of complementary medicine and alternative healing my entire adult life and was accredited in so many different areas once I got out of graduate university. And I had done so much work on this issue, as you can imagine. We know about physical, emotional, and sexual abuse as being traumatizing. And
Yeah.
being in that entire field, I went through years and years and years of therapy in traditional ways, in non-traditional ways. And I thought I'd come to some place of acceptance, of understanding of what had taken place in my life. And so when I got diagnosed with that basketball-sized tumor, it really sent me reeling because I thought I'd handled all of that. And I thought, it can't be that issue. God knows I've done more work on this issue than anyone on the planet. And so that can't be the issue. And at the time I got diagnosed, I was so grateful for all the work going on in the field of cellular healing. And one of the things that science had discovered is that when you feel a strong emotion, as any of us feel when abuse is happening, and you repress it, which all of us do when abuse is happening, it releases into your bloodstream a quantifiable biochemistry, which will go to certain cell receptors and block them, rendering those cells incapable of communicating with the rest of the cells in the body. And if over time illness happens, it happens where the cells are blocked. What they also know to be true is when we feel our emotions very naturally, our cell receptors remain open. And in all the research that was going on at the time in the field of cellular healing, one of the things that they had discovered is that when these cell receptors got blocked, you repressed this unspeakable, unbearable emotion. You had no other coping skills. So of course you shut it down. And it released that biochemistry. It got stored inside the cells. And before that cell generation died, it passed on the programming, the consciousness, the pain, and the cell memory to the next cell generation. So the next cell generation was born as an exact replica of the previous cell generation. And this gets passed on your whole life long. As a matter of fact, when I went to the doctor and was diagnosed medically, she said it probably started as one cell when you were around 8 years old, and it replicated as two. And then, of course, by the end, the cells were replicating exponentially, aggressively. And I looked about 6 months pregnant, though I knew I wasn't. And so part of the gift of my own healing journey is that without drugs or surgery, I found a means for all of us to go on a very practical, direct journey inside our bodies, to go to specific cellular locations, to uncover the pain there, the cell memory, the unspoken words, the consciousness, what was going on at that time. And so part of the gift of my own journey was, I feel I was guided by grace to go on a journey, and I went right directly inside the tumor. And when I uncovered the cell memory there, immediately my therapist thinking mind said, oh, it can't be that memory. It's a memory of childhood abuse. God knows I've spent my entire adult life working with this. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt on it. I've so long come to a place of acceptance of what took place in my childhood. And my arrogant thinking mind was saying that. But my body and my heart were saying, well, you've got nothing to lose by at least attempting to release this stored pain and this consciousness. And so I went about a process that actually wasn't dissimilar to what I'd done before. And I asked the stillness that was very omnipresent in the room, am I complete? And the simple word, no, arose. And I was just plunged into a field of despair. And I didn't know where else to turn, what kind of questions to ask anymore. I'd uncovered the memory, though my mind didn't believe it was the right one. But even if I had uncovered it, even if I had released what was there, I still didn't know how to complete. And something inside of me, it just gave up. I surrendered deeply, and I fell from this despair into a vast field of nothingness that was omnipresent. And as I let go in this nothingness, the room was flooded with light. And I found myself just resting in this presence that I didn't have a name for, in this embrace. And in an unexpected moment, a simple prayer arose. How? How to complete? I didn't expect an answer. And at the most unexpected moment, the word forgiveness was there. And immediately, my know-it-all therapist thinking mind said, what kind of difference could forgiveness possibly make? And my heart said, you can't afford not to forgive. And so I thought, okay, I'll give it a shot. And when I tried to open my heart to allow forgiveness, true forgiveness, it hurt. Because you see, I'd created this whole noble image of myself. Brandon, this noble therapist who'd somehow come to accept her violent past. And I had to step down off my own self-made pedestal and face down 30 years of pride, dressed up as compassion and understanding. And it hurt to face down that much pride. Finally, I found the courage to do that. And I opened my heart wide, and with all my heart, I forgave wholeheartedly. And it was while I was forgiving that I realized that that blame game, 30 years of it, dressed up as compassion, that my blame game was finally and truly over. And I felt myself resting in a peace that I hadn't known in all my years of living. And 3.5 weeks later, I found myself in hospital, ending up doing several processes similar to the one I just described. And I was diagnosed to be textbook, perfect clean, completely tumor-free. And so I learned in a very unequivocal way that even as strong and as damaging as abuse can be, even if you have a history of it being stored inside your cells and that condition pattern getting passed on from one cell generation to the next, it is possible for all of us to finish with our stories through forgiveness of ourselves, of others' life. And it's that that gave rise to the entire journey process, which is now being used in hospitals and by medical doctors, people from all walks of life, to get to the emotional root cause of what is co-creating our illness, and to finally finish with our stories of pain.
Sorry, I'm just trying to, we had a few little technical hiccups, so I can't find my way around what to do, but I'm so grateful for your detailed expression of your story about physical abuse. I had a guest here on my last program, and she spoke of sexual abuse and how by using the journey, how she has completely cleared all of her self-worth issues, all the past trauma. And so this is why I wanted to make your story as a sequence, or also share that, because abuse shows up in so many forms. It shows up in sexual, in physical, or verbal abuse, and yet all of it causes damaging and lasting results in people. And to speak about it in this format here, we just want people to know that there is a way out, that there is a way through, and that there is a way to clear that. And it can be as simple as coming to a journey intensive. And this was one of the reasons we began this program, to bring themes like that into the room, into the public, and speak about it. They're not kind of dinner table conversations we want to have, but it is absolutely possible to address these issues and to clear them out. And the Journey Intensive nowadays, since we have entered the age of COVID, all of these programs are now online. They take place on regular sequences on all time zones around the world. And it's never been easier. And I believe my colleague Chris is posting the link somewhere, and will post it also on Facebook and YouTube, so you can check it out. The next ones are taking place on the European Australian time zone in November. I think North America is earlier than that. Germany will have one, Czech Republic. So they're happening in many languages. They're happening on all time zones. And it's never been easier. It's never been easier, and it's never been more affordable. Even the price has come down to, I think it's less than half than what we used to or had to charge when we were in a live seminar room. And so our prayer in the journey is that everybody takes these tools into their lives. And whether it's been an issue of abuse or any other issue in life, whether it's been an unresolvable grief, whether it's been a suppression of some trauma that we've experienced in the past, whether it's been an accident that's never been resolved, no matter what, there isn't any issue that couldn't be addressed by way of a journey process. And to then have that tool in your life to use ongoingly with yourself, with your loved ones, can really help us to live more openly, more joyously, more peacefully, more fully, I think is probably the best word, more fully and rich in life. And so that's the invitation here. And Brandon, please, if you have any final words for our viewers on the subject of taking the journey into their lives, I would really love to hear that from you.
Well, one of the things that took place as a result of discovering about how cell memories get passed on from one cell generation to the next is that for the first 26 years of the journey, I got a journey process once a week while I was on tour. And the reason was I was absolutely clear that there's much more than one cell memory stored inside this body. And I feel it's such a privilege to have the skills to, in a very real, direct, practical way, clear whatever holds us back, whatever shut us down, whatever baggage is here, so that this radiant presence that is your own essence, this love, this peace that is your soul, can begin living your life naturally. And so I love it that this work is being available, that we've traveled to 39 countries, it's available in 23 languages, and that people from all walks of life, no matter what your background is, be it medical, be it in all walks of life, be you a banker or a farmer, all of us are capable of undergoing the journey and getting in touch with our own divine essence and being guided by our own soul to get access to these cell memories and to go through this deep process of release and letting go, ultimately forgiveness, so that when new cells are born, They're born devoid of that old consciousness as new regenerative cells. And so all of us have this ability, no matter what your age, to participate in your own healing journey. And I believe if you're watching this, your own soul is calling you home. It's saying it's time to get real. It's time to clear whatever's blocking you, whatever's holding you back, whatever limitations you put on yourself. It's time to come home to the radiant presence of your own soul, your own essence. And so I feel that this work is a call from your own heart to begin your healing journey. And that for me, my whole life is a lifelong healing journey. I'll be a student till the day I die. And I feel it's a privilege to clear anything that has held me back so that this joy and love is available and here every moment. And so I pray you heed the call, that you listen to your own self and you decide you're worth it, that it's time to come home.
Brandon, thank you with all my heart for being here with us today, for sharing this very, very intimate story of yours in such a beautiful way, and making it okay for others to say, I have something too that needs clearing, and there is an embrace, there is love, there is everything here in this way. And now we do it from the comfort of everyone's home. You don't even have to go to a hotel. You don't have to get on an aeroplane or a train or a car or something. And so it's never been easier. And I wholeheartedly invite you and hope we see each other at some of the upcoming events. And I thank you with all my heart for joining us here today. And specifically, Brandon, thank you with all my heart for being here with us today. Thank you.
Thank you.